When writers talk about characters, they'll often talk about three main things: wants, needs, and a single defining character flaw. Aesthetic descriptions, gestures, and mannerisms are often of secondary importance, or, in some cases, aren't important at all. This is because while exterior appearances may communicate what type of person someone is, it is only through action that we illustrate specifically who a character is. Today we're going to tackle the character flaw and the complex way that it affects the construction and perception of both character and plot. A good flaw will be complex enough to make the audience think, but also direct enough that it doesn't seem contrived or unlikely. So as a prime example, I want you to cast your mind back to an older time, a much simpler time, that of 2006.
It's a vast gallery of quirky homemade video clips, TV show excerpts, and music videos. But YouTube has fast become must-see web watching. The website went online only last year, and already 100 million videos are viewed on YouTube every day.
In those early days of YouTube, we didn't have much to choose from, but those that caught our attention became legendary. One such video was Grape Stomp Lady.
These buckets are filled with grapes. What kind of grapes?
These are filled with Chamberson grapes, and the winner this Saturday, who's Stomp music, eating international foods, having wine tours and tastings, vineyard tours, seminars, arts and crafts. It's a lot of fun, a whole day. Stop. Oh, stop. I can't. Oh, stop. I can't breathe. Stop.
Oh,
boy,
dear.
I think she's actually hurt.
No,
there.
I think she is.
Yeah, she's
Ouch.
hurt. She took a hard fall off there.
Okay.
Boy, gosh, I hope she's okay.
To get to the heart of why this video is illustrative of the usefulness of character flaw, we'll have to go back a little further again. The Poetics is a work by Aristotle that outlines some key factors in constructing a good dramatic narrative that is still used by writers, particularly those in film today. It is in the Poetics that we find one of the earliest references to the character flaw under the term hamartia. The most frequently cited example is in Sophocles' Oedipus Rex. In this play, the titular Oedipus has become king of thieves after defeating a sphinx in a game of riddles. But in the onset of the play, the land is ravaged by a plague. Most ascribe the land's misfortune to the sudden disappearance of the last king. Oedipus's ruler vows to get to the bottom of the mystery. Throughout the course of the play, he sends others to investigate, and even seeks the guidance of a blind prophet. The prophet warns Oedipus that he won't like the answers he seeks, but Oedipus insists. The falling action of the play sees the discovery that Oedipus has unwittingly fulfilled a prophecy that he sought to avoid. It was he who killed his father, the former king, and he has been sleeping with his mother since. Now, the first assumption we might make is that Oedipus is at fault for this state of affairs. After all, he killed a man, and when warned off repeatedly by the oracle, he quickly becomes abusive and furious, ultimately demanding what he wants. This reading of Oedipus's hamartia is not invalid, but it misses the complexities of the word. Hamartia is not a point of blame. It's not there to pin a character to their crimes. Rather, it is the hinge the downfall swings on that helps us as an audience identify and rationalize why a thing happened, rather than simply judge it. For that reason, a good hamartia, especially in what we might call a tragedy, is a corrupted nobility, a virtue that misses its mark. For Oedipus is never judged as bad for his actions. The tragedy at the heart of this play is not simply that Oedipus killed his father. Rather, the tragedy is that Oedipus, in pursuit of a noble goal, found himself ensnared in something bigger than himself. When Oedipus harasses the prophet, it's because he seeks an end to his people's woes, and even though he is warned, he persists in the face of danger. These conversations about hamartia generate useful exploration about themes and character. In Listen Up Philip, a writer loses everything around him because of his arrogance. But an alternative reading is that Philip's flaw is that he thinks he has to be arrogant to succeed. Everything he does is a posturing, As a writer, he's constructed a shallow image of what a writer should be. His eventual loneliness isn't because he pushes people away, but because they realize there's nothing to find under the surface. Hamatia also has more far-reaching effects on the story, as it interacts and permeates the character's ideology. Every character has an ideology as defined by their actions, and therefore if the character is flawed, then their ideology must be as well. A really illustrative example of this is Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. In those three films, Batman is constantly addressing his own personal view of law and justice. He believes that people shouldn't break the law, but breaks the law to defend it. It's a contradiction that hasn't been lost to many of the Batman writers over the years, but it's one that Nolan and his collaborators connect intimately to the story arc of all three films. Each villain in the trilogy sees society as essentially chaotic. Al Ghul believes that society has to be periodically purged. Joker wants to see it released, and Bane wants to hand it to the people. The funny thing is that on some level, Batman agrees with this, and that's why he believes that Gotham needs a Batman. His answer to the problem is of course different, but this is where we see illustrated his essential flaw. Batman has to position himself as above the law to maintain the law. This contradiction makes Batman an authoritarian figure who imposes something on other people that he believes doesn't apply to him. For philosopher Slavoj Žižek, this worldview is fatal. Batman, through his flaw, crosses the line into full-blown fascism, but for others, and clearly for Nolan, the drama of the film is that Batman chooses a path that runs this risk. I imagine this is why he chose this as a particular thematic element. Batman's flaw may not lead to his downfall, but it constantly generates the situations and the opponents that might. So what have we learned about the Grape Stomp reporter? A woman is sent on a job, a little fluff piece for her station, yet she throws herself in with reckless abandon. When told to relent, she continues, and it is this gusto which brings her tumbling down and apparently left her with a few broken ribs. It's kind of funny, that's why we're talking about it now, but if we perceive this as a self-contained narrative, her literal downfall is because of her enthusiasm doing her job. Her hamatia, while very negative for her, ultimately came not from a negative characteristic, but a humanizing one.
She took a hard fall off there.
Okay.
Boy, gosh, I hope she's okay.
Okay, we're gonna make sure she is.
We'll try and
That's the
check on
thing.
her and get back
All
to you
right.
as soon as we can.
We'll be back right after this.
Gee,